right, let's appreciate, of course, Abdul Salam for our background report on um, advancing homegrown technology. We have guests right here in the studio. Let me quickly introduce, seated here, Khalil Suleiman Halilu, who is Executive Vice Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. Okay, we also have Dr. Umar Binder, former DG, National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. Thank you very much. And I mean, compliments of the season to both of you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. Let's begin with Khalil, who happens to be the Executive Vice Chairman of NASENI. Let's ask you, for better perspective that is, can you appraise Nigeria's homegrown technology? Where are we? Where can you situate Nigeria at the moment?
Well, as we all know, Nigeria is a country full of talent. You know, we've seen how we've done very much excellent in terms of the media industry. You know, you're talking about music specifically. Nollywood is the third largest, film industry in the world, and it's not any different when it comes to technology. For example, if you are talking about mobile banking app, we have one of the best in the world, and likewise the security around it. So there has been a lot of innovations. You know, from time to time we hear about them from remote places. Someone has invented something. Recently, there was an old man that invented a radio in Gombe. You know, so constantly Nigerians always push boundaries, always come up with innovative things. But where the gap is, road to market. You know, once you create those things, how do you take them to market, commercialize them, and produce them at big scale? You know, for the benefit of the society and also to have impact on the economy. So yes, we are creating things. You know, some happen to be escape, the hurdles to be able to go to the market, while some, are left behind. And we have really good examples. We are talking about ICT there, the likes of Flutterwave, Paystack, which are all homegrown, technologies, startups, and they were backed by big players like Visa, Mastercard, where they even prefer to ride on local players that come into the market because our terrain is very difficult. Today, if you look at the top 10 companies in Nigeria, most of them are local companies, and that says a lot. The truth is, for us to be able to reach economic prosperity, we have to support homegrown innovations. And the way Nigeria or Africa is designed, is best suited for local solutions, rather than imported solutions. And that has been really made clear by several examples. And even international players, they always prefer riding on local partners because they understand the terrain better.
Absolutely. Good points that you have indicated there. But let me bring in Dr. Binder into the conversation. I mean, what he has just painted, it's what we perceive on the surface. It would appear that Nigeria is doing absolutely well, at least, within the past few years in terms of technology and innovation. But if you look at the global, ranking, we are trailing countries like South Africa and Morocco and even Tunisia, on the global index. We are also said to be better, with technology output than input. I mean, you know these parameters. How do you evaluate them in real terms?
Well, thank you very much. Each time we discuss about this subject matter, you have to look at the whole ecosystem. Technology is crudely utilized in this country to cover a lot of things, but in real sense, there is a value chain. You have the factories that generates the knowledge, that generates the ideas, the possibilities, and these are the scientific teams, the researchers, the educators. And Nigeria is very good in this infrastructure. We have 250 or more conventional universities, a mixture of federal public universities, state public universities, and federal universities. And anybody who knows what a university is, it is an ecosystem where you have professors who have grown through evolution of knowledge. You have PhD holders teaching with, you know, classical laboratories and workshops and so on and so forth. So the question is, how come that Nigeria has over 250 of such energy technology institutions, and you jump over to the Nigeria itself, and then you start seeing the challenges that you see. Secondly, like agencies like Naseni, we have over 300 institutions like that. Some are agricultural, some are specialized ICT, some are in communication, some are in water, some are in health, right? And research institutions, some of them are mono-mandated. They just have one specific mandate. You dig, you find out, you toast it, and then you throw it out. Now, when you mop all this up, actually Nigeria is working well because the index of functionality of universities and research institutions in the traditional context is publications. You publish in very high-level journals, impact-heavy journals, and you grow. You become a professor, and you have PhD, and everybody is hailing you. Nigeria is very good at that. However, this knowledge has to now jump to affect the life of people. Like he's saying, it has to. Otherwise, there is no way you can have this infrastructure and have a very high level of poverty. Poverty and technology does not coexist. When you have technology, your poverty will run away. But when you have what you think is technology and poverty is sitting there and growing fat and causing you crisis, insecurity, theft, and so on and so forth, then you know something is missing. What is missing is the gradual transformation of this high-level knowledge to become solutions for our water, for our jobs, for our health, for our schools, and so on and so forth. So Nigeria has the infrastructure. It has young people like this and many others who are energetic. But the process of moving technology to the people there are two steps. One, there's one aspect that is very difficult to explain to the public. It's called intellectual property.
Obviously.
Intellectual property is the knowledge that has become property. It's intangible. You can't, if this guy has very heavy ICT know-how in his head, you can't see it. It's intangible. But he can change this country with that. This is a gap for Nigeria. This country does not have an intellectual property policy. It has institutions like the Patent Office, the Trademark Office, the Industrial Design Office, NOTAB, Copyright Commission, but it does not have an and without intellectual property, that property cannot mature to be held by industry. Nobody will touch your technology if it is just open. If I start producing technology that he has openly, another character can just utilize a mimic and then it becomes exactly. So once you mature through that, then industry can trust you. If I come to you, property, intellectual property, though it's just like any other property. The certificate of occupancy of an innovation is a patent. You get it, it's a registration certificate. So when I discuss with you, which is the commercialization, the licensing, the financing, the training, the jigging and fixing, the marketing, the branding, is what is required by so many people. And in Nigeria, this is not understood. We think
you just talked about the number of institutions that we have. You know, and I'm glad you have opened up this whole conversation. We now know where the gaps are. Now there are institutions that are mandated, to help transform, or take up, these ideas. These research works and all that. And you said some of them are mono-mandated. Can you contextualize that?
Yeah. Well,
like for instance, Naseni.
Naseni, historically was actually the Ministry of Science and Technology. All its centers were the parastatals. But through the years, it transformed to become the prime engineering institution in Nigeria. It has, I think, 9 or 10 or whatever, I don't know now, I lost count, institutes all over the place doing things and bits and pieces. And they have achieved things from the simplistic things up to complex things. But I can tell you, if today you go to Naseni and you ask Naseni, how many patents, because the way what they do is patent oriented, how many patents do you have? Patents that are registered in the US Patent Office, patents that are registered with WIPO, PTC patents, or patents locally in Nigeria. Naseni should be able to give you a book like this, right? But then that's not the only achievement. You have to ask another question. Naseni, how many industries have approached you to license this, whether it is outright purchase, that is, I am buying this patent, I am paying you a 20 billion investment, and I'm running with it, I know what to do. This is outright. Or we joint venture. I have technology, you have money and what it takes, let us come together and make money. Or let us license it, take it and use it, give me 10% of the profit, and so on and so forth. This is the secret. Then if you ask Naseni, how many people, Naseni might say, oh, we have 10,000 people who have taken a technology. But the index of licensing your technology is your income. How much are you getting out of it? And this is what is missing in our institutions.
Let me quickly dash to Naseni again. Khalil will be able to tell me, you've listened to Dr. Bindri, and he's raised a number of points, well, the validity of which I would leave you to determine. But he talked about intellectual property as one of the gaps. Would you think that that alone is the problem, or there are other issues? That's one. But, you know, technology is nothing if it doesn't solve the day-to-day development challenges. He talked about poverty, hunger, wherever, in whatever area. If it doesn't solve these challenges, then it hasn't done anything. So tell us, what are the issues? Is it a question of underutilization of what we have, or it is the misapplication of it? We seem to have a lot of it. He has agreed. So what is the problem?
Well, I think it's both. You know, it's both misapplication and underutilization. We need to be able to optimize things. For context, I just transitioned 3 months ago from the private sector, you know, to the public sector, and I've spent all my life building startups. So I understand intellectual property very well, and how it can make or break you, you know, depending on the situation you know, you find yourself. And my big brother here is right about you know, the fact that we have all these institutions. You know, we have everything we need, you know, but the question you keep on asking is, you know, why are we still on this same level? We haven't really progressed or propelled. So in fact, it's one of the things I introduced upon resumption of work, which we call the 3 C's, you know, collaboration, you know, creation and commercialization. At the end of the day, all the research has been done. If they are not commercialized and have a dent in the economy, then it's useless, you know. And also having so many institutes or so many outfits, both private and public, if they are not able to collaborate and leverage on each other's capacity, you know, there is no way we can accelerate, you know, development. Some have intellectual property, but they don't have manufacturing, you know, capability. So we've begun to introduce a lot of programs. One of them is leverage manufacturing, where you can have your own IP and then leverage on someone who has the, you know, facility or the money to be able to take you, you know, to the market. Today, if you look at one of the most valuable companies in the world, Apple, they don't produce their phones or any of their gadgets. You know, you see it's designed in California, but manufactured in China. Likewise, HP, you know, you see assembled in Singapore, you know, components produced from different parts of the world. So I think one of the things we need to look at differently in Nigeria is you can't do it all, you know, all by yourself. You need to be able to leverage, and that's the best way to propel. There are companies that all they are specialized in is design, like Apple. They design the user interface, they design the fields, the software, but they hand it over to other companies to produce, and we don't even hear about those companies, and yet this is one of the most valuable company. But one of the issues I've realized in Nigeria is that everybody wants to do from A to Z by themselves, which is impossible and which is a roadblocker, for progress and development, and that should change.
So what constitutes the homegrown context within it?
Well, there are a lot of innovations coming up, right? And for example, at Naseni, one of the things we are doing, which will be ready in the next 3 months, is an innovation hub. You can create a technology, but that doesn't necessarily mean you know how to take it to the market. So what this innovation hub, just like any business hub, it becomes a meeting point, for the different players, to be able to collaborate and work together and have a handshake so that you can propel your products and services.
When I meant, what aspect of the value chain are we referring to when we because our conversation is advancing homegrown, and the understanding will be homegrown, Niger own, made in Nigeria, developed in Nigeria. Yes. So in terms of technology, what aspect of it are we looking at? Is it the ideas? Because you have just told us that, I mean, no one is an island. You can get the idea here, manufacture elsewhere and all that. So what aspect of this technology are we growing locally?
Well, in terms of value chain, you can't isolate any aspect of the value chain because they are all intertwined. From idea to prototyping, to small-scale production, all the way to mass scale production, which is, commercialization. So the whole value chain, there needs to be handshake, from one end, to another. There are people that just stop at intellectual property. They develop, they do research, and they stop, they stop there. And then there are experts that are good with prototyping. In Naseni, for example, there are over 160 prototypes. Like he earlier mentioned, you also need to see how you can take these prototypes to manufacturers to be able to scale them and take them to the market.
I don't know.
Right.
You want to add to that?
Yes, we'll come back to Dr. Bindre because is there, in addition to the problems you have already identified, the challenges you have already identified, I'm just wondering, are there other areas that we need to explore to shore up things? Perhaps he's agreed that both underutilization and misapplication apply. You've also identified some other challenges, but have we explored everything that we possibly can? What other areas have we not even explored at all that we need to break grounds?
Well, thank you. Exploration, again, is just an interest, But academics are very good in doing that. But let me tell you the big gaps. In our country, we have to mimic what has happened in other countries. What you see is happening in China, in India, in Israel, and so on and so forth, is that the highest level policymakers should understand what we're discussing here. Otherwise, if we are understanding, we're inbreeding. He knows these problems. I know these problems. He's a head of an institution. I was a head of an institution before. There are two things that popped up in the science, technology, and innovation policy some few years ago. Till today, Nigeria is struggling implementing these two key things. One, there has to be a centralized funding to support from the evolution of knowledge until you apply it somewhere there, and then you guide the process of benefiting from these resources. Two, there has to be a mentor, the highest level of supervision, so that you can be able to direct these things. And I can tell you they designed what they call a Nigerian Research, Science, Technology and Innovation Council to be chaired by the president. It is only the president that can crack these things that we're talking about. Why? Because we say homegrown. The president might give Ministry of Health 100 billion this year. Please, Minister of Health, do something. Then Minister of Health runs to India to get medicine, runs to China to get kits and so on and so forth, and establish hospitals that are shiny. And then before you say Michael Jackson, the Minister of Health will go to the president and say, Mr. President, There are 100 hospitals. That 100 billion you gave me is fantastic. We want you to launch it. So President is shaking, wants to go, and then they are cutting tails, they are clapping for him. Fantastic, Mr. President. Now, you continue with this Minister of Water Resources, Minister of whatever, but when you come to Minister of Science and Technology, what does he tell Mr. President? What he will tell Mr. President is that, Mr. President, we have 115 research institutes. We have published 200 papers. We have generated maybe 20 professors. Mr. President will say, what are you talking about? There's nothing to clap here. The language has to change. The change of the language is the homegrown. The Minister of Science and Technology should come to the President and say, Mr. President, last year you gave Minister of Health 100 billion and you launched so many hospitals. This year, we are launching 200 hospitals because of the research and innovation system we have. They have been managed to come up with the medicines. They have managed to come up with the equipment. They have managed to come up with the buildings. And we actually want you to come and see the startups like he's talking about. 200 of them, all employing young people using Nigerian knowledge. Mr. President, are you serious? No, that's not the answer. The thing is that we have also another 2,000 Nigerian young people doing software to ensure that the healthcare sector is working. This is the homegrown, and I believe that this is what Mr. President has said, renewed hope. That renewed hope is the homegrown. And it is this homegrown that he himself has to be asking questions. That is why he has to be the chairman of the council. They must meet every month. He must ask, Minister of Health, me, I'm giving you money. You're constantly buying things. Minister of Agriculture, you're importing things. Minister of Industry, what is happening now? Because I have renewed hope. I want Nigerians to be employed. I want wealth to be created and said, I'm tired of this poverty. That is the language of that homegrown council.
That's why I like the CEO of Naseni to also speak on collaboration between Naseni and these research institutes. You heard what Dr. Binder said.
Well, as you know, Naseni has its own institutes. We have over 11 institutes in Nigeria, and also cited about 7 more that are upcoming to make about 22 institutes, and these are part of us. So naturally we have to collaborate. But what we are working on is changing the dynamics, of how we operate. Okay. It's not just to do this research, build prototypes, and keep them on the shelf. We've opened doors, to private sector players. At the end of the day, there has to be a handshake between government and private sector players. If you've been following our activities, recently we had an outing in China where we were able to attract about $2 billion US in terms of technology transfer investment. And we've been to various countries from Czech Republic, China, Dubai, where we were also able to attract about $150 million. So like he rightly said, we need to copy from other countries. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. What we just have to ensure is we domesticate these technologies, and that is the fastest way we can leapfrog into prosperities. Most of these things has been done in other countries, but how they interact with our local environment, is what makes it different. And Nigerians are experts, when it comes to that. So we need to have that handshake, and there is clarity. The external players understand that they can't operate in this terrain without local players. So we need to make that happen and have an accelerated collaboration between the two sides. And it's something we've been working on. I made a promise that first quarter of next year we'll be launching products, which will also be done by Mr. President, God's will. And Nigeria will begin to see Naseni branded products. Rather than prototypes. So we are on full throttle when it comes to that, and you begin to see results early next year.
Specifically, which sector are we expecting this, innovation? Is it in the, which of the sectors? You talked about Nollywood. There is, the computer, ICT, and all that. Which of the sectors do we have this great potential? That Naseni is projecting?
Well, as you are aware, our mandate is very broad. We cut across different sectors, but there are also sectors where we are prioritizing. For example, agriculture is on top of the list. When it comes to agri-equipment, the ones that we can fabricate and the ones that we can localize, to match our environment. Also, we're talking about health sector, software and ICT, bio, technology. When you're talking about this whole CNG conversion, but on the top of the list for these sectors is definitely agriculture.
CNG, that's gas.
Yes, that's gas.
Compressed natural gas conversion.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, we're having, we're producing, the tools to do that, because
Yes.
we hear it's quite expensive to convert. So if we're able to get that, tool locally, that will save a lot of cost.
Yeah, you see, the whole idea is even if something is expensive, one of the things Naseni does is build the technology and then seed it out to SMEs. We don't hold on to these technologies. And once you do that, by law of economics, it will crash down the prices because it's readily available. As you know, Nigeria is actually a gas country, not even a petrol country. So we're a gas country with so much potential, and with the going green and the eco-friendly initiatives, we're rightly placed. We just need to put the pieces together, and you can see there is a lot of effort, from different agencies to be able to pound on the CNG conversion, also going to electric vehicles and the likes. And we're also not left out in doing that.
All right, Khalid, thank you very much. And let me welcome Engineer Kashim Ali, who is a former president of the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria. We welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
You've been around for a while, and you've listened to Khalil discussing.
I'm being there too.
So let me bring you straight into the conversation by asking, what are the engineering challenges that you have been able to identify when it comes to developing homegrown solutions in technology and evolving it, not just because if it doesn't solve day-to-day challenges in development, then it means nothing.
Thank you very much. Well, you have challenges when you try. We, as a nation, we haven't tried enough. Haven't lived for about 60-something years, and we're just talking about our potentials continuously. That is in itself the biggest challenge of the country. But at a point, the engineering community advocated strongly on the need for us to take bold stand, take things into our hands, and get some things done. And that derived from the experience we had during the Civil War. And there were people who were, there are still living legends who were involved in the contraptions that were used on the Biafran side especially. That's where you had innovation take place. So there was a need to do that. The advocacy was strong enough that the president then, President Babangida, tried to set up about 150-man committee to explore what it was to do to bring us to that point. And they went around the world, especially the emerging countries then. And we had what we now have as NASENI. That's the origin of NASENI. NASENI, when it came into being, Ministry of Science and Technology dissolved into it. And it's unfortunate that after Babangida left, Ministry of Science and Technology evolved again and consumed NASENI. That is the beginning of our problem, this reversal. NASENI, you see, but in Nigeria we love budget, we love big names, and we love, to be able to have the ears of the... Exactly. So people wanted, at the point, the argument was that, if NASENI chief executive is just there representing the president, he may not have access. He's not in the cabinet, so he will not be able to be effective. It sounded well because the presidents then did not quite understand. The president who came after Obama did not understand what NASENI represented. So NASENI went down, 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 down. President Jonathan was the person who really came again to understand what NASENI was all about. And I recall I was on the council then and we had a meeting, and everybody will have your say. I had my own say too, and I say, look, the science and technology had no reason existing. The minister was sitting opposite me. He was not very happy with that comment. But I said it didn't have reason to exist, because we were reversing ourselves and going back many years by having a Ministry of Science and Technology, and even dream that we should have, and I said under it was another catastrophe. So, and he sat down for a while. When I was responding, he said, oh, in some countries, they don't have Ministry of Defense. They just have defense headquarters. And he said, yes. I said, exactly. And he said, okay. Unfortunately, he lost election, so he couldn't continue. President Buhari came. I wrote him a personal letter on this issue of Naseni. But Buhari didn't even listen to anybody on Naseni until the second term, towards the end again. The same thing happened to Jonathan. It was towards the end. When he came on real big and started working with Naseni. So, and then he didn't lose the election because his term ended, so he left. We're hoping that the new president will take it from that point. But it appears again, him too, he is slowing down, maybe until later in life before he will pick up. I pray it doesn't happen to him, because what happened to Buhari shouldn't happen to him, so that he can drive Naseni. The homegrown technology is what will make any country sustainable. Nobody, you see, look, even let's take pedestrian example. If the kind of food you're eating with your mom is not what your wife is cooking. But each one has its own peculiarities, and you're not even sure you can choose one over the other. That's how life is. If we have variances of everything, but you have to make your choice. Countries that have made progress did that. I'll give you an example. A recent development in Malaysia. Malaysia was at the same level as we, and they created their own institution like Naseni also. Malaysia had, Korea had, everybody that is growing in the Asian Pacific did the same thing we are doing. It's only us that has not made progress, unfortunately. Let me tell you, I was involved in railway development, and it's old, about 10 years now. And we're looking for people to collaborate on how to run our railway, the Abuja railway system. I said, look, I'm not going to Europe. Europe is too advanced, and they are talking about finer things that we have I'd say that the basic. Let's go to Malaysia. Let's go to these people who are doing evolving. Malaysia went to Canada, brought their rolling stocks, brought them to their own workshop in Malaysia, and reconfigured them. Because nobody owns anything in this world. Let me tell you, this idea of technology, no technology belongs to anybody. You see, you pick your own, and you do what you want to do with it. Anywhere you pick it from, it's fair game. Because if we're talking about the Chinese, they took it from Europe also, turned it around, and they have advanced it even beyond what Europe can understand. We can take it also because of our own level of creativity, and turn it around to anything. If I'm sorry, maybe I'm embarrassing my brother. This, it comes from an area where all of us went to Makaranta Alo, where you have this slate. People think if you don't have slate, you are not a good Muslim. So he played on their okay, along that line. Let me play along that trajectory. He got a slate, quite okay, and put computer in the middle of the slate to use to teach. So so nobody will, the most timid local will not say you are doing anything wrong. So you use slate, and people are learning a lot more than slate could ever have provided them. So this is how the world moves. But so we must. There are many things, many little things. You see, even on the roadside, you see people highly creative are doing things. We must pick up those people. Because today it's not about qualifications again, like you say, it's not about qualification. Even in America's growth, population growth, I read my friend Professor Kikwe wrote one article for me, I was reading. At the point that America's population growth grew by 8 million, those who went to the university in America dropped by 1 million. We expect that the growth in the university admission should go up, but it went down by 1 million. Why? Because people are finding that the jobs they do these days are not jobs that require academic qualification, but are jobs that require skills.
That's what I want to ask you, Engineer Kashim Ali. Do you think, from your observation of what Naseni and other, mandated, agencies are doing, do you think that their innovations are actually, responsive to the demands, to the needs of Nigerians? And I ask because Naseni is probably known to people like us, like Dr. Umar, you and other political leaders and the elite. But at the micro level, the viewer doesn't even know anything about Naseni. Because if Naseni existed or exists, he would see Naseni products in his home. He will be able to use Naseni products, to generate power, to generate electricity, things like that. And probably that's when you talk about Naseni, it will make sense to a lot of people. Do you think our innovative drive, is responsive to the needs of the average Nigerian today?
Yes and no. In truth, Naseni is not supposed to be a household name. It's not supposed to be. It's to be a spirit that drives everything. He told you, they're in every sector. So you can't be visible and be doing, only spirits do that kind of thing. So the concept of Naseni was, look, create institutes that will deal with specific things. Look, my sister, do you know these LED lamps, the cheapest ones you can get, was first developed by Naseni? More than 15 years ago. But there were no off-takers, unfortunately. So in that area, Naseni is not doing well. Not well in terms of marketing and identify the right stakeholders who can be off-takers. They developed that thing, and there was nobody to invest in Nigeria until China started bringing those things here. But the first one, they did it such that because they know that in our own community, we send children to go and buy bulb, buy practically everything. And sometimes while playing, they will break. They made it such that if it falls, it will not break. 20 amps will shine brighter than 100 amps of the conventional one.
Absolutely.
That's what they did. Naseni did that.
Wonderful.
But they had no off-takers. Because, so, again, will you blame them?
Why? That's
Thank you.
question.
The reason is that the Nigerian businessman, I know many of them who have not always happy when I say this, many Nigerian businessmen are parasites. They want quick money, not really, they don't even want legitimate money. They want to pick money from government, always. So they will take their budget, they spread it out, they come and go around the MDAs and pretend to be business, they induce them and get that money. That's all. They don't think, nobody wants to take facility from a bank, for instance, and stay for, say, 50 years before, maybe to say, I'm investing today, not for me, but maybe for my name to remain after I have gone. No. Okay. They want it now. So this is that attitude, the general attitude of Nigerians, that they did not invest in it. Then government ought to have intervened as a deliberate policy to say, okay, you come and invest. We will support you. We will take a certain equity in this business. Start it. After so years, we'll take our money back or we sell to the public. And then we go off. The government again did not do anything to incentivize those people.
Okay, go ahead.
I think we'll talk more about that. But let me get back to Naseni and Khalil to say, you see, in 2022, there were indications that the ICT sector contributed about 18.44% to Nigeria's GDP in the second quarter. You are new in the saddle. I can understand that. But what is it that you met on ground? What would you consider the highs and lows of 2023? And what are your plans going into 2024 in a few days?
The highs are the fact that we have a lot of talented people, especially in Naseni. When you are talking about technology transfer, that's where you should go to reverse engineering We have a very good skill force, that needs to be motivated. And also our act is reasonably good. There could be some improvements to encourage private sector to collaborate with agencies like us, and also discourage importation. And is the same reason why we want to commercialize key products in the economy. Like he mentioned earlier, the original design, Naseni, is supposed to exist like a spirit, but we understand that to show Nigerians that we're serious, we have to pick out some key products like agriculture and drive them and have a national brand, because it's something that is almost non-existent in Nigeria. And also encourage a lot of collaboration with private sectors, because there are things that we can do as government that the private sector will not be able to enjoy. So how can we extend that benefits to encourage these private sectors, small and medium enterprises, to produce locally rather than importing? Because one of the key challenges we have in the country, it's much easier to import things than to produce, because there are no real incentives. So how can we provide these incentives so that people see it is better to produce locally than to import, and we'll be able to create more and more jobs. And these things, we're doing them in baby steps, because one of the challenges we have is number one, being individualistic by nature. Every agency or every startup is trying to do everything from A to Z by themselves, which I believe takes a lot of time, is slow, and is not good for the economy. Secondly, there is limited, collaboration, between, they don't leverage on each other. So how can we encourage that in order to propel? So there's something we introduced called leverage manufacturing. Not necessary, you have a facility, I have an IP, or I have a better design on how to produce some of this product. How can we work together, to be able to move these things forward? So there's a lot that needs to be done, and we've broken it down into design, production, and commercialization. Naseni might not be necessarily involved in the entire chain, because government is not designed to operate like private, sector. We have good design. We're well positioned in terms of commercialization, especially for the things that government consume. How can we leverage on private sector that have excess capital, money in abundance to produce these key things that the country needs? And how can we encourage them by way of incentive to make sure that these things are being produced locally? To your surprise, when we were in Czech Republic, Razor, Tiger blade, it's produced there, and their biggest market is Nigeria. How do we encourage them to come and start producing locally? Where are they manufacturing there and shipping to Nigeria? And there are so many ways you can do this without necessarily having a bogus arrangement. If you are to build a factory from scratch, it takes about nothing less than 2 years, but like I mentioned earlier, given citing example with Apple, where they design, produce elsewhere, and bring it. So let's make baby steps. The design and the commercialization, let's hold on to the two ends first, and then the manufacturing, we can slowly bring it down, to Nigeria. Because some of these technology transfer companies, if you ask them to come to Nigeria, it becomes a chicken and egg situation. They said, give me incentive or ban importation on this, and then the government is saying, you have to show me capacity.
But is that what you're doing with the locally made transformers, which you unveiled recently at Naseni?
Yes, it's the same thing. As you're aware, a lot of our engineers were in China. We have counterpart funding arrangement with the Chinese. Not only transformers, but high voltage testing lab, as well as solar cell manufacturing. Where we do technology transfer from China to Nigeria. But always, these people will ask for incentive if they are coming into your country, because they are bringing in money. They need to repatriate it at some point, and they need to enjoy benefits that importers do not typically enjoy. So it always becomes a chicken and egg situation, and that's where we are breaking that limbo by saying, okay, first step is let's ensure that we're involved in the design. Let's ensure we're involved in the commercialization. So tomorrow we can tell Mr. President that this was designed by Naseni, commercialized by Naseni, but the factory is in China. What incentive can we give them to move this so that more people can be employed? You know, rather than waiting the whole period, doing a lot of negotiations and saying, okay, come and establish, you know, a factory in Nigeria. I'll give you an example. One of the places I worked, it's one of the biggest, you know, companies as far as aerosol is concerned in Africa, and simply what was done then is just copying, just copy and paste. Whatever product that is doing well in Nigeria that is being imported, you know, we started producing the local version of that product. Okay. You know, same formulation, similar branding, everything. But the fact that labor cost in Nigeria compared to Europe, you know, was cheap. You are able to beat the market by about 80% down, you know, and that flooded the market with Nigerian product. And over time, people begin to understand that this is the same quality, you know. So why can't we do, you know, similar thing? But I think sometimes we go into a lot of white elephant, you know, projects, trying to build gigantic, you know, things. I'm not saying it's impossible or it shouldn't be done, but let's start somewhere and get traction almost immediately, you know, and begin to move slowly.
Let me also take you on another very critical area, you know, that Nigeria is seeking solution. That's on how to curb, you know, oil theft. And this is one area that, you know, innovation is critically needed. Is Naseni also contemplating, you know, innovation around this area?
Of course, and that is where our our innovation hubs comes into play, where we are dumped with various problems, you know, and we have ingenious people that will come up with solutions. And don't forget, there is no better person to catch a Nigerian thief than a Nigerian, you know, because of culture. We are very, very, very creative when it comes to bypassing, you know, systems. So you need to be able to get a local, you know, person. I keep giving this example of mobile app. You know, if you try European mobile app or American for banking system, is very, very cumbersome, you know, compared to the Nigerian. Nigeria is top 3 when it comes to mobile banking and also security, and it's something we don't even appreciate, and that shows a lot in terms of using homegrown solutions, you know, to be able to propel. Go and check all the unicorns that are coming out of Nigeria. They're all local, you know, locally based, you know, companies.
I wish we could continue with you, but we understand you have another assignment. Unfortunately, we have quite a number of, you know, questions we would have loved to put to you. Khalil Suleiman, CEO of Naseni, would really like to appreciate you, and we wish you all the best of luck. And of course, NTA will keep an eye on Naseni.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, let's take a short break. Good morning, Nigeria.
Right, we're glad to know you're still there, and this is Good Morning Nigeria. We have been discussing how to advance homegrown technology. Just a while ago, we let the Chief Executive Officer of Naseni, who has another assignment to go, but we still have here with us Engineer Kashim Ali, who is a former president of Koren, and Dr. Umar Bindiri, who is a former DG National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAP. Let me stay with you, Dr. Bindiri. From the conversation we have had so far, it appears we have identified a number of issues. Funding is one of them. Insufficient infrastructure is another. Skills gap in STEM is another. How do we begin now to tackle the challenges? I know you have a list of other challenges. There are political interests. There are too many things that hold us back. But how do we begin to address all of these challenges?
Well, actually, thank you very much. Actually, it's not just challenges. It can only be fair to also give Nigeria accolade that we are making progress, because if we were not making progress, we will not be where we are today. To run a country of more than 200 or 250 million people is not easy. Feeding them, clothing them, providing water, medication, schooling, and so on and so forth. So, but what we are saying is that we could have climbed the ladder higher. And the secret of this is literally to decide that you don't belong to the category of developing countries, because that coin, developing country, is a failure country. It's countries that continue making the wrong things will maintain developing. When you start doing the right things, including homegrowing, then you too, you will climb up. That is why the Asian countries, some of the South American countries, are now becoming emerging countries. It means they've deliberately decided that we are not going to continue. Every time we need railway, we run to China. Every time we need fantastic road, we run to Germany. Every time we want generic medicine, we run to India. They stopped and they said, we have to energize ourselves. They too, they were not developed. Now they have developed. So whether it is spying, whether it is the real research, we must find the code and key on how we can also find generic medicine, how we can also, it's a shame in 2023, when you see a nice road laid out and our leaders are going to commission the road, you'll see one white person behind. That is the technology, even if it is just one person. Or we go to commission railway, you see 3 Chinese behind. That is the engine of, it would be nice to actually see we domesticate the train technology, we domesticate the manufacturing thing. And how do we do this? You see, I continue saying is that unless our policymakers at the highest level are also involved in this discussion, we will continue talking to ourselves. I am telling you with all due respect that Mr. President himself has to be asking these questions. Why is it that every time I'm commissioning road, I see a white person behind me? Why is it that every time I want to see railway, I see Chinese behind me? Why? He has to question it so that his team will now start shaking to say, if we go to this place, we take president, he will ask questions and we don't know what to say. That is the generation. I give you 2 examples, just quick ones,
Yes.
Claire. Look, Nigeria has it and don't. Do you know that this Abuja to the airport road, it is more powerful than Silicon Valley? This road that you see from the gate, when you see the stadium, maintaining that stadium, running it with irrigation, with mechanical maintenance, with a ICT facility, is technology that is sitting and waiting for Nigerians. The amusement park is technology. As you go, you see African University of Science and Technology, Cancer Research Institute, Defense, EFCC headquarters. In Idu, all the Julius Berger function. NASEN is in Idu. As you go, you see Biotechnology Center. You see Nigerian Communication Satellite. You see the Space Agency. You see the biotechnology. Until you reach the airport, where what I call the military or military park, where you see the customs, the Air Force, all this is generated by technology. But even internet connectivity that NICOMSAT can provide on this corridor does not exist. We have it and we don't have it.
You know, Dr. Bindu, I don't know what you have done by citing this example. I just hope that people, the right people, are watching and taking notes, like you rightly said. And that's why I want to ask again, because it would appear that much of what we're doing now is basically technology, transfer. And I remember, when we had the issue with, Twitter, and the former Minister of Information had to ban Twitter. I know the challenges that, millions of Nigerians faced just because of the vacuum that we didn't have. Meanwhile, in the US had to, chase away WeChat, from the US. We tried to link up with someone from China, it was absolutely impossible by Zoom.
Yeah.
So, is this still, for an evolving economy like ours, is this still viable to do, to seek transfer of technologies via the MOUs. We hear on paper, we've signed MOU, running into trillions of dollars, billions of dollars on this. Is it still viable for us to do that at this moment? Engineer Kashim Ali, let's start with you.
I see your passion, and it runs around. The truth is, many of these things that we are talking about are things we can do in Nigeria. The Nigerian spirit is so strong that if you look at even that small break when we had that Twitter being off,
yes,
people started doing things. They started. But once Twitter came back, everybody forgot about them. You see, I think we should be looking for solutions now. And one thing is, because of our system, the governance system in Nigeria, the president has to take interest in some of these critical things. He has to ask the questions and continuously ask the question. Every morning, he must have one question for any of these people to answer. That way, that is the only way we can make it. For instance, now, we're talking about even Aseni and its products. Believe you me, they have many prototypes lying everywhere, including security-sensitive equipment that they have made that could help us, could have helped, and can still help us in this Boko Haram thing. But nobody is touching them. Because our concern in government is about budget. And where are you spending it? When I'm spending it locally, the quantum is small. Something would have bought with $200,000. You can do it with 200,000 naira. There's nothing that comes out of it. Those are the challenges we have. But we can do these things. And this is what other countries keep saying. China, we recall, even as not so old as we are, we recall that China products were not recognized. But today, China has taken the world by storm. It has everything. Czech Republic that he's talking about, Czech Republic makes everything. I was in Czech recently. They make everything, including the car that the head of state drives. So they don't import anything.
But here we think that it is too small.
So, and your power is in manufacturing, not in design and marketing. You can steal a design and manufacture, it becomes your own. Because knowledge is not restricted to anybody. If I I copy what Dimbindi has now, and I go to my own end and produce it, he cannot come and meet me. I didn't put his name. It's not your name. Did God give you that knowledge alone? Knowledge is vast. So I take it, I go and produce it. And it becomes mine. But he will continue to be holding to the knowledge that is in him, which is worthless in terms of Naira and Kobo. So production or manufacturing is the real thing. That's what you need to take. Capacity to do manufacture. And it doesn't have to be on large scale. You see, by the time we have small industries, SMEs, people, there was one young man many years ago who realized that there was so much code in JAWS. People have to try to go by. The military, they wear this sweater that they bring from abroad. He's an architect. The mother used to knit when he was small. He went to buy some products from Bulgaria. They were inside one small room. They're making sweaters. They made sweaters for Shell. Those were in the computer in those days in Shell. They made for the army. They made for people in JAWS. They call their product top and bottom. Those are the things that grow the economy, not big industries. But but big industries can also come in between. You can't do that, but there has to be a deliberate program. What can the president do? There's something they did in the oil and gas sector that I like. Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Team, and the part of their funds, they allocated it. They gave it to Bank of Industry. There are Nigerians who are coming to do business in oil and gas. We're talking about local content. You can't have local content when the standards are different. The man from Europe can go, or anywhere can go and get interest-free loan or low interest loan from his country and come to Nigeria to work. you have to go to the bank. He is getting about 5% or so, you are getting 20%. So they said so government should help people. They have that money, so the maximum you can get on that loan, the maximum interest you can pay on that loan from that fund was 8%. It's the Bank of Industries. And Nigerians will come there, take that loan, work, pay back. For the whole year that project has run, it's running still. No Nigerian has defaulted.
You see?
And so the oil and gas industry now, the low level, medium projects are all done by Nigerians. If you go and commission anything now, you don't see any white man in the background. That's plenty. Why can't we do that? Apply that in the same? So Naseni has some fund, set up a fund, so encourage you to come and manufacture. When you have manufactured the razor, you want to manufacture razor blade, the person starts manufacturing in Abuja or in Ikare or anywhere where
you talked about literally having to steal the technology, and that is an area that Dr. Bidro is familiar. You're quite familiar with this area because you superintended over NOTAP that you had this mandate. It would appear that NOTAP is very silent at the moment.
Well, they are working. I think it's not encouraging to start saying somebody's working or not working, but let me tell you, my reservations is number one, I think our cultures have domesticated the belief that you only produce crops during rainy season. So you are waiting for free water, free education, you produce. When the dry season comes, you stop, you go and rest. We apply that to everything. We think things should just come from God and is free. We don't like to work very hard, Even if there is water, we don't go ahead. So in this country,
are hard-working people.
Well, you see, the thing is,
on record.
I like the statements. I get encouraged when I hear Nigerians, but I'm a specialist in trying to solve poverty problems. When I see poverty high in this country, whatever hard work you are doing, whatever technology you are doing, is something else because it's not solving this problem. So that connectivity is the major index. And it is encouraging to see that the president himself said, I have a renewed hope guided by 8 agenda points, right? But for me, I read this thing, I digested it. There are only 2 things that is guiding it. He wants himself and his team to generate jobs and create wealth for Nigerians massively. And I can tell you the option for technology to play a role in this is very, very prime. That's why once I told the Minister of Science and Technology, I said, Oga Minister, sir, you are not just a sectoral head. You are a big picture head. You are the Minister of the Renewed Hope. So filter all the technologies from Naseni, the technologies from PRODA, the technologies from NABDA, the technologies from everywhere. Sieve it and see which ones can create jobs now in agriculture and so on and so on. And we've seen, like Claire said, is working. We've seen anchor borrowers.
Yes.
No matter what anybody says about anchor borrowers, it worked. It nearly got Nigeria to self-sufficiency. And I advise that never ever lose these anchor borrowers. Yes, it is loan. Poor people are not paying the loan, but the same poor people who are producing 10 bags or 15 bags are facing insecurity problems. When flooding comes, it hits them. When kidnapping comes, it hits them in the villages. But still, Nigerian rice is there. We shouldn't lose it.
What can be done? That's quickly in few minutes.
We should believe in us, and we should. I think there should be a huge database of all these prototypes developed in Nigeria, not just interest, things that don't work, the ones that are working. Put this so that the president will launch that we're using homegrown Nigerian technology that has matured to develop Nigeria in agriculture, in processing, and so on and so on.
All right. I like the sound of that. And as part of the work that we should be doing at this time, Engineer Lee, how do we begin to foster a supportive ecosystem for innovation and entrepreneurship?
Truth is, the ecosystem is there. The individual need to be activated to work. And one way of doing that is, like I said, look, incentivize those who are ready to work. Leave those who are not ready. But we seem to be focusing on those who are not ready and leaving those who are ready out. And the only thing, let president really sit down. He's the chairman of council of Nigerian Council. Let him even have a meeting, because all the ministers, relevant ministers that we're talking about, agri, science, everybody, they are members of the Nigerian Council. Let him sit down with them and put a task to them, like we put to NIBS every year. Give them a task. This year, I want you to roll out something, at least 2 or 1, even 1 for me. I want Nigerian-made car. Only, just do this for me. This is what I want. They say, I don't want anybody to import razor blade again from Czech Republic. I don't want anybody to bring.
Why should we? Why should we be importing CNG convertibles?
Just give them a list of things that are doable. You have a meeting.
Set targets.
Target, not just talk again. So not that you just have money and you are just talking and you are going about.
Give me. We're running out of time. You need to say.
Well, I don't know, but I would have wanted him to in 1 minute 30 seconds, just wrap up his thoughts, and then we'll go from there.
President can do that, but the first step, he can do a town hall meeting. There's something that used to happen before, sectoral town hall meetings, where people can offer, and they have rapporteurs. They condense this thing and give it to you. Then you begin to let them know it's time for us to pull our sleeves over and say, I want this. How much time do you want? 6 months. 6 months, I'm calling you. Do you, how many? 3. That is the way it's work now. If I want this road done. When are you finishing?
Yeah, targets all over the place. Ministers should give targets to agencies all over.
President can do that. I'm telling you, this country will just. I told my Ghanaian friends that they should stop insulting us. The day we take off, we'll take off and then fly.
I think we've exhausted the grace, the grace that Victor gave you. Engineer Kashim Ali, former President Koren, we always appreciate your contributions on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you very much. Dr. Omar Binder, former DG Nota. We're always glad to have you with us. Always full of solutions way forward. Thank you very much, both of you, for coming. And yes, time for some sports now.
World Football Governing Body FIFA has moved the 2024 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup final qualifying round first leg match between Nigeria's Falconets and Burundi from Bujumbura to Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, as the world body has deemed the pitch in Bujumbura unfit to host the game. It has also been clarified that following the expansion of the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup to a 2014 tournament and the guarantee of 2 more slots to Africa, the fixture between Nigeria and Burundi will be the final qualifying round, with the winner over 2 legs picking up a ticket to Colombia. Meanwhile, the Confederation of African Football has named South African official Nojambolo Nlela as referee for the match that has been scheduled for Sunday, 14th January 2024. All 25 players invited by head coach Chris Danjuma for the fixture have been notified to arrive in Abuja today as training sessions for the first leg match commence on Thursday. And Super Eagles defender Ola Aina put up a good performance as Nottingham Forest defeated Newcastle United 3-1 at the St. James's Park Tuesday. Aina was in action for 90 minutes in the trailing contest.
Ward has lifted it in. Unbelievable.
All right, that's been Good Morning Nigeria for today. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode, I promise you. I'm Victor Azu.
And I'm Claire Adilabo Abdurrazak. We thank you for watching. Don't forget, tomorrow it's another day, and we'll look forward to seeing you. Bye-bye.